The phone number isn't one I recognize. I almost don't answer, but something makes me pick up. Sarah Michaels from Evergreen Video Productions. She did the videography for Kyle's wedding last year. My chest tightens hearing those words. Kyle's wedding. The one I paid $80,000 for. 14 months ago now, followed by 11 months of marriage, then the divorce. Sarah says she needs to show me something. She's been clearing storage space, found raw footage from the reception she never included in the final video. There's audio. A conversation between Amber and her maid of honor that a wireless mic picked up. My hand grips the phone tighter. Sarah's voice drops when she explains what's on the recording. Amber talking about the long game, about making it to a year, maybe 18 months, then divorcing Kyle and taking what she could, laughing about how easy he was to manipulate, discussing how my family money would eventually come through Kyle, planning the whole thing before she even married him. I'm standing now, though I don't remember getting up. Sarah almost deleted the footage. But she kept thinking if it were her mother, she'd want to know, did I ask if Kyle knows about this?
She says no.
She called me first because Amber talks about me too, about isolating Kyle from me on purpose, about cutting me out because I was the only one who suspected something was wrong, that I haven't spoken to my son in 8 months. Not really. Brief, cold texts. He blames me for his marriage failing. Amber convinced him I sabotaged everything, that I never gave her a chance, that my negativity poisoned their relationship. The divorce finalized 4 months ago. She took half of everything he had, savings, retirement accounts, the condo, even his grandmother's antique china I'd given them, and Kyle still believes it's my fault. If you've ever been blamed for destroying a relationship you tried to support, leave a comment. Subscribe if you believe that sometimes the truth hides in places no one thinks to look. Let me tell you how a wedding videographer's accidental recording proved my son's marriage was a calculated con from day one. I've been a widow for 5 years. My husband, Richard, died of cancer when he was 63, leaving me alone in our suburban house with a teacher's pension and the life insurance policy he'd been meticulous about maintaining. Not wealthy, but comfortable. The kind of financial security that comes from 2 people working modest jobs for 40 years and being careful with money. Kyle is my only child. He's 32 now, works in marketing for a mid-sized firm downtown. We've always been close, especially after Richard died. Sunday dinners became our routine. Kyle would stop by after work sometimes just to talk while I graded papers at the kitchen table. When his first serious relationship ended badly 6 years ago, he spent 3 months sleeping in his old bedroom, healing. I thought I knew my son. Thought I could read him, recognize when something was wrong. That he met Amber at work 2 years ago. She was new to the firm, 29 years old, working in their digital marketing department. Kyle called me after their first date, voice bright with something I hadn't heard in years. She was different, he said. Smart, ambitious, beautiful. She'd had a hard life, foster care, no real family, pulled herself up through community college and determination. She understood struggle. The whirlwind started immediately. Amber pursued Kyle aggressively, though at the time I thought it was just modern dating. She texted constantly, wanted to see him every night, integrated herself into his life within weeks. By the time I met her 2 months in, she already had a key to his apartment and half her clothes in his closet. That first dinner at my house, Amber arrived with expensive wine and a bouquet of flowers. She was striking, tall, dark hair, the kind of polished appearance that comes from attention and effort. Good posture, excellent eye contact, warm smile that showed perfect white teeth. She asked thoughtful questions about my teaching career, about Richard, about how long I'd lived in the neighborhood. But there were moments, small things that felt slightly off. She asked about the house, when I'd bought it, what it was worth now, whether I'd ever considered downsizing. Wondered aloud whether the property taxes were manageable on a teacher's pension. Mentioned she'd heard real estate in this area had appreciated significantly. All framed as casual conversation, getting to know her boyfriend's mother. But the questions felt cataloging, like she was taking inventory. When I mentioned I'd updated my will after Richard died, routine estate planning, Amber's attention sharpened. She asked careful questions about whether that was complicated, whether I'd worked with someone local, whether Kyle was involved in those decisions that I told myself I was being paranoid. Reading too much into normal curiosity. They were engaged 6 months after they met. Kyle didn't ask my opinion before proposing, just called to tell me the news. His voice was happy, excited. When I tried gently suggesting they might want more time, he got defensive. Said I didn't understand, that when you know, that Amber had been through enough instability in her life and deserved commitment. 4 months later they were married. I offered to contribute what I could to the wedding. I'd been saving for years, had $30,000 set aside I'd always planned to give Kyle when he got married. Amber's face lit up when Kyle told her. Within a week she'd sent me links to venues, caterers, photographers. The budget started at $30,000, then crept to $40,000, then $50,000. Amber kept finding things that were essential. Upgraded flowers, premium bar package, designer invitations that I watched the budget balloon to $80,000 and paid for all of it. Told myself this was supporting my son, that every mother wants to give her child a beautiful wedding, that I was being generous, not taken advantage of. Amber made most of the decisions. Kyle seemed happy to let her, said he didn't care about details as long as they ended up married. I noticed he looked tired during the planning months, stressed in a way that seemed like more than normal wedding pressure. But he insisted everything was fine, that Amber just had strong opinions about making their day perfect. The wedding itself was beautiful. Expensive venue, elegant flowers, professional photographer and videographer. Everything Amber wanted. She looked stunning in her dress. Kyle looked happy, if exhausted, but there were details that bothered me. Amber had no family present. She claimed estrangement from all her foster families, said none of them had been good to her. No childhood friends either. She'd moved around too much, lost touch with everyone. Her maid of honor was someone she'd known 6 months from her gym. The entire guest list was Kyle's friends and family plus a handful of Amber's co-workers, a woman with no past. No one who'd known her before she met Kyle. At the time I thought it was sad. Now I wonder if it was strategic. During the reception, I noticed Amber keeping Kyle close, monopolizing his time, redirecting whenever he started talking too long with old friends. Small touches on his arm, whispers in his ear, leading him away. I told myself she was just an attentive bride. I should have trusted my instincts. The first few months of their marriage seemed fine from the outside. Kyle texted regularly, sent photos of their new condo, talked about settling into married life. But the Sunday dinner stopped. Amber always had reasons they couldn't make it. She had work commitments, they had plans with her colleagues. Kyle was too tired from a busy week. When I did see Kyle, Amber was always present. She'd sit close to him on my couch, hand on his knee, steering conversations away from anything too personal. If I asked Kyle direct questions about work or his life, Amber would answer for him or redirect. He seemed different around her, quieter, more careful with his words. 4 months into the marriage, Kyle started pulling away completely. He canceled plans last minute, didn't return my calls for days. When we did talk, he seemed distracted, distant. He mentioned needing space, said Amber was feeling stressed by expectations from his family. I didn't understand what expectations. I'd barely seen them. I tried giving them room. Stopped calling as often, waited for Kyle to reach out. The silence stretched longer. 6 months after the wedding, I got an email from Amber. Long, detailed, devastating. She wrote that I'd been undermining their marriage since the beginning, that I'd made passive-aggressive comments at the wedding about her not being good enough, that I'd criticized her to Kyle's friends, told people she was using him, that I'd tried to turn Kyle against her with constant judgment disguised as concern. None of it was true, but it was specific enough to sound believable. Dates, quotes, situations twisted into weapons. The email ended with a request for space from toxic family dynamics that I called Kyle immediately. He didn't answer. I tried again. Nothing. Finally, he texted back saying Amber was really hurt, that he needed me to give them space, that he couldn't deal with this right now. That I texted back, asking what I'd supposedly done. He didn't respond for 3 days. When he finally did, his message was cold. Said Amber had been keeping track of my comments for months, that she'd finally broken down crying about how unwelcome I'd made her feel. That he believed his wife, that I tried calling again. Voicemail. I sent a long text explaining I'd never said those things, never criticized Amber, never tried to undermine anything. Kyle's response was brief. He needed time. I needed to respect that my birthday came 2 months later. Kyle sent a text, brief, generic, no call. When I tried calling him that evening, he didn't answer. I spent my 66th birthday alone, crying in my kitchen, not understanding what I'd done to lose my son. Thanksgiving approached. I texted asking about plans, hoping they'd come for dinner like we'd always done. Kyle said they were doing their own thing this year, just the two of them. Christmas was the same. New Year's passed. I was completely frozen out. I started seeing updates on social media, the only way I could track Kyle's life anymore. The happy couple photos disappeared. The posts about their life together stopped. Something was wrong in the marriage, but Kyle wouldn't talk to me about it. I reached out periodically, kept my messages supportive and neutral, got back brief responses or nothing at all. Kyle had been completely turned against me. Then, 11 months after the wedding, I got a text. Kyle and Amber were getting divorced. He didn't want to talk about it. I tried to be supportive, said I was here if he needed anything. His response gutted me. This was partially my fault anyway. When I asked what he meant, he said Amber had told him I'd never given her a chance, that I'd poisoned him against her from the start, that maybe if I'd been more supportive things would have worked out differently. I tried to defend myself, to explain again that I'd never done what Amber claimed. Kyle shut down the conversation, said he couldn't handle talking to me right now, that he needed space to process everything. The divorce happened fast. 8 weeks. Through mutual friends, I learned the details Kyle wouldn't tell me. Amber got significant assets, half the value of the condo they'd bought together, forcing Kyle to sell it. Half his 401k that he'd been building since his 20s. Spousal support despite the marriage lasting less than a year. Most of the wedding gifts, the furniture they bought together, even his grandmother's antique china that I'd given them, the dishes that had been in our family for 3 generations. Kyle was financially destroyed. Had to move into a small apartment, was paying Amber monthly support, had lost years of retirement savings. And emotionally, he was shattered, but he still blamed me. Wouldn't answer my calls, responded to texts with single words. The few times we did communicate, he insisted I couldn't admit what I'd done wrong, that I couldn't see how my judgment had damaged his marriage. I spent 8 months in this limbo. My son was suffering and I couldn't help him. He thought I was the villain in his story. Every attempt to reach him was met with coldness or silence. Then Sarah, the videographer, called. She'd been going through old project files, clearing space. Found raw footage from the reception that never made it into the final video. The wireless mics they'd used picked up everything in range, including a conversation in the bathroom between Amber and her maid of honor during the dancing. Sarah said she'd listened to it, then listened again, couldn't believe what she was hearing. She'd almost deleted it anyway, but something bothered her. She looked up the wedding couple online, saw they divorced. Found my contact information from the original booking. She told me Amber had been recorded talking about the con. All of it. How long she planned to stay married, what she wanted to take, how she'd researched the laws, how she'd targeted Kyle specifically after learning about my assets, how she'd systematically isolated him from me because I was the only person who suspected something was wrong. Everything I'd been blamed for, everything Kyle thought I'd done, Amber had orchestrated it. The accusations were projections. She destroyed our relationship on purpose, as strategy, because I was a threat to her plan. Sarah asked if I wanted to see the footage. Said she'd drive to my house if I wanted, bring her laptop, let me hear it myself, that I told her I'd come to her. Sarah's video production studio is in a small office park 20 minutes from my house. I drive there the next morning, hands gripping the steering wheel too tightly, not sure what I'm about to hear, but knowing it will change everything. She meets me at the door. Young woman, maybe 35, with kind eyes and an apologetic expression. Her studio is small, editing bays with multiple monitors, shelves of equipment, posters of weddings and events she's filmed. Professional but modest. This is someone who works hard for her business. Sarah leads me to her primary editing station, pulls up a chair for me beside hers. The footage is already queued up on her timeline. She explains the technical details, wireless lavalier mics on the groom and best man, but the signal range extends much further than people realize. The bathroom where Amber and her maid of honor was close enough to the reception that everything picked up clearly. The timestamp shows this was during the dancing portion of the reception, maybe an hour after the toasts. Sarah adjusts her headphones, offers me a pair. Her hand hovers over the play button. She asks if I'm ready. I tell her yes, even though I'm not. The audio starts with background noise, music from the reception muffled through walls, the sound of a door closing, then two female voices becoming clear. Amber and her maid of honor, Jess. I recognize both voices immediately, Jess laughing about something, then asking how much longer Amber thinks she can stand being married. Amber's response is casual, like she's discussing the weather. Says she just has to make it to a year, maybe 18 months. Jess asking if she can really tolerate Kyle that long. Amber saying she's been playing this role for 2 years already. What's another year? And why hands are shaking. Sarah glances at me, but doesn't stop the playback. Amber talking about the joint accounts Kyle put her on within months of marriage. About how his mother's family money will come through him eventually. Jess asking if I'm really loaded. Amber saying the house alone is worth at least $800,000, plus whatever I have saved. That I'm a widow with no other children, so everything goes to Kyle, which means it comes to her eventually. Jess asking what if I live forever. Amber laughing. Then she divorces Kyle after a couple years and takes what she can now. Either way, she wins. I'm crying now, trying to stay quiet so I can hear every word. The conversation continues. Amber detailing her strategy, like she's explaining a business plan. Talks about researching marital property laws before she even got engaged. How she made sure to get added to accounts and titles quickly. How she documented everything for potential spousal support claims. She discusses Kyle like he's a mark, not a husband. Says he was so easy. Desperate for love after his bad breakup. Eager to prove he could make a relationship work. Jess asks about me specifically. How Amber plans to handle the mother-in-law who clearly suspects something. Amber's response is chilling. Says she's already started the isolation process. Keeps a running list of everything I say. Twists it later when talking to Kyle. If I ask about their timeline for having kids, Amber tells Kyle I was pressuring them. If I mention the condo needing some updates, Amber says I implied they're not maintaining things properly. Every normal conversation gets weaponized. Amber says by the time she's done, Kyle will believe I tried to destroy his marriage. And when they divorce, he'll be so guilty about choosing Amber over me that he won't fight the settlement. Jess calls her diabolical. Amber says she prefers strategic. The recording continues for another minute. More discussion of tactics, timeline, exit strategy. Then sounds of them leaving the bathroom, door opening, music getting louder, audio fading as they move away from the mic range. Sarah stops playback. The studio is silent except for my crying. She says she's listened to it at least 10 times. Couldn't believe it at first. Thought maybe she was misunderstanding context. But there's no other way to interpret this. It's a confession, recorded accidentally, because of where Amber chose to have a private conversation. I ask Sarah why she kept it. She could have deleted this footage months ago, never told anyone. She says her conscience wouldn't let her. When she heard about the divorce through mutual connections, she went back through the files, found this recording again. Realized if this were her mother being blamed for destroying a relationship while the real villain was the daughter-in-law, she'd want someone to tell her the truth. But Sarah is also nervous. Worried about legal implications of sharing a recording made without consent. Concerned Amber could sue her, damage her business. She's risking something by bringing this to me. I want to send the recording to Kyle immediately. Want him to hear what I just heard, understand what happened. Know I was telling the truth all along. But Sarah cautions me to think strategically, the same word Amber used. Kyle is raw from the divorce, financially devastated, emotionally destroyed. He's blamed me for 8 months. If I come at him with this now, will he believe it? Or will he think I paid the videographer to create fake audio, that I'm so desperate to clear my name I fabricated evidence? She's right. Kyle might not trust this. Might think it's manipulation for me. Another move in the game he believes I've been playing all along, that I need more than this recording. Need to build a case so comprehensive Kyle can't deny it. If Amber is this calculated, this strategic, she's probably done it before. Women don't wake up at 29 knowing how to run marriage cons this sophisticated. This is practiced. I need to find her previous victims. Sarah says she'll send me a copy of the audio file, encrypted, with documentation of when and how it was recorded. She'll provide testimony if needed. But she asks me to be careful about how I use this, to protect her business, if possible. Did I thank her? Tell her she may have saved my relationship with my son. She says she hopes so, that she can't stop thinking about the conversation she recorded, about how coldly Amber discussed destroying a family. I drive home with the audio file on a thumb drive in my purse. Evidence of everything. But evidence I can't use yet. Not until I know it will work did I need help. Professional help I call a private investigator whose card I've had in my wallet for years, a friend's recommendation from when she needed background checks for her business. His name is Tom Rodriguez. I explain the situation, ask if he can investigate Amber's background, find out if there's a pattern. Tom says he'll start immediately. Says if Amber's done this before, he'll find it. These kinds of cons usually have patterns. People who do this successfully once almost always try it again. Within 3 days, Tom calls back. Found her history. 2 previous marriages, both lasting under 2 years, both ending in significant settlements for Amber. 1 previous engagement that fell apart when the man's family hired an investigator. Amber has been doing this for at least 6 years. Kyle is victim number 3, possibly number 4. Tom asks if I want him to contact the previous victims, see if they'll talk. I tell him yes. I need their stories, their documentation, everything they have. We're going to build a case that's irrefutable. Not just the wedding recording, but a pattern that proves Kyle was targeted by a professional. Then and only then I'll approach my son. Tom works fast. Within 2 weeks, he has comprehensive documentation of Amber's pattern. Her first marriage at 24 to a man named David lasted 18 months, ended with a settlement that gave Amber half his savings and ongoing support payments. Her second marriage at 27 to a man named Michael lasted 14 months, similar settlement. A third engagement at 28 that fell apart 3 months before the wedding when the man's sister hired an investigator who uncovered Amber's history. Tom provides contact information for all 3 men. Says David and Michael are willing to talk, still angry about what happened to them. The third man, James, is hesitant, but his sister wants to help. I reach out to David first. He's 38 now, living in Oregon, remarried with a daughter. He tells me his story over the phone, how Amber targeted him at a professional networking event, researched him beforehand, knew about his family's money before they even met, how she love-bombed him, rushed the relationship, isolated him from friends who expressed concerns, how she documented everything during the marriage to build her settlement case, how she walked away with $200,000 after 18 months. Michael's story is nearly identical. Amber met him at a charity fundraiser, claimed to be passionate about the cause, researched his background first. Same pattern, fast engagement, strategic isolation, manufactured conflicts with family members who suspected something, quick divorce with significant settlement. He lost $150,000. James is the one who got away. His sister Jennifer is a family lawyer, recognized the signs immediately. She hired Tom's firm to investigate Amber before the wedding. Found the previous 2 marriages, the pattern. Confronted James with evidence. He broke off the engagement. Amber threatened to sue for breach of promise, but disappeared when Jennifer threatened to expose her publicly. Tom has documentation from all 3 cases, divorce settlements, legal paperwork, timelines showing Amber's pattern. She targets men in their 30s with family money or inheritance potential. Researches them carefully before engineering meetings. Moves fast to lock them in. Gets access to finances quickly. Isolates them from protective family members. Stays just long enough to maximize settlement value. Then moves to a new city and starts over. Kyle was textbook. Everything she did to him, she done before. Did I spend 3 weeks building the complete case? The wedding recording as centerpiece. Tom's investigation showing pattern. Previous victims' testimony. Documentation of Amber's moves to new cities after each con. Timeline showing how she researched Kyle through LinkedIn before they randomly met at work. Then I reach out to Kyle. Send a simple text asking if I can see him, just for an hour. Tell him I have something he needs to see about Amber, that I have proof. His response takes 2 days. Says he doesn't want to rehash everything, doesn't want to hear more accusations against his ex-wife. Needs to move forward, not backward. I text back that it's not accusations. It's evidence. A recording from his wedding that proves everything. I add that Amber has done this before to at least 2 other men, possibly more. That he wasn't her first victim. Kyle agrees to meet. Coffee shop, neutral territory. Says I have 1 hour, did I arrive early, set up my laptop at a corner table, organize the printed documentation. Kyle walks in 15 minutes late, looking worse than I've seen him. Thinner, dark circles under his eyes, carrying stress in his shoulders. He sits across from me with arms crossed, defensive posture. I start by saying I love him, that everything I'm about to show him comes from a place of wanting him to know the truth, not from wanting to be right. That I'm sorry I couldn't protect him from this. Then I play the wedding recording to Kyle's face changes in stages. First minute, denial, insisting it must be fake or out of context. Second minute, recognition dawning. That's Amber's voice, her laugh, her way of speaking. Third minute, his eyes filling with tears, hands gripping the table edge. By the end, completely silent, face drained of color. He asks to hear it again. I play it twice more. He sits there processing, occasionally shaking his head, occasionally closing his eyes like he's in pain. Then I show him the rest. Tom's investigation, the previous marriages, David and Michael's testimonies, the engagement that fell apart when James's sister exposed her. The pattern showing Kyle was systematically targeted after Amber researched his background and my financial situation. Kyle reads through everything with shaking hands. The timeline showing Amber moved to his city 6 months before they met, got a job at his firm deliberately, engineered their introduction. The LinkedIn searches she'd done on him before their first conversation. The records showing she'd done this exact pattern twice before. He looks up at me with devastation in his eyes. Asks how he didn't see it. How he missed every sign. How he believed her over me. Did I tell him Amber is a professional? That she's spent years perfecting this con. That she studied him, learned what he needed, became exactly that person. That it's not his fault for loving someone he thought loved him back. Kyle processes that he gave 2 years of his life to someone who viewed him as a business transaction. That every intimate moment was performance. That the woman he thought he married didn't exist. That Amber destroyed his relationship with me as strategic move, not emotional reaction. He asks what we do now. I tell him the divorce is final. Assets are divided. Legally, there's not much we can recover. His lawyer already confirmed. Civil case would be expensive and unlikely to succeed. Amber was careful, didn't forge anything, got everything through what courts view as legitimate marital property division. But Kyle insists on confronting her anyway. Wants her to know he knows. Wants her to understand she didn't get away with it completely. I try to talk him out of it. What's the point? She's gone. He says she has his grandmother's china. She took everything and made me look like the villain. He needs her to know that we go to Amber's new apartment. Tom found the address. Amber answers the door in workout clothes, face showing shock seeing us together, then calculating what this means. Kyle plays the wedding recording on his phone. Amber's expression shifts. Surprise, then calculation, then cold acceptance. She asks what we're going to do about it. Sue her with what money? She's already won. Kyle demands the china back. Amber refuses. It's legally hers from the settlement. Kyle threatens to take the recording to police, to press, to her employer. Amber calculates quickly, realizes the china isn't worth the exposure. She gets the boxes from her closet, hands them over with a smirk. As we leave, Amber says to tell his next girlfriend she said hi. Zero remorse. She views this as legitimate work, not fraud. Marriage is business to her. Kyle consults a lawyer about the recording afterward. The lawyer confirms what we expected. Divorce is final. Very hard to undo. Recording proves deception, but civil case would be costly and unlikely to succeed. Criminal charges, nearly impossible. Everything Amber did was technically legal, just morally bankrupt. The lawyer advises letting it go. Expensive lesson learned. Kyle is destroyed but also relieved to know the truth. He spends weeks processing that his marriage was a lie, that he was targeted and used. But he also understands now that none of it was his fault, that Amber is a predator who's done this before. More importantly, he understands I was telling the truth all along. That I never sabotaged his marriage. Amber did, deliberately, as strategy. That every accusation against me was projection and manipulation. We sit in my living room one evening, Kyle crying, apologizing for believing Amber over me, for 8 months of silence, for not trusting his own mother. I hold him while he processes everything he lost: money, time, trust, his sense of judgment, but we have each other back. That matters more than anything else. 6 months after the confrontation, Kyle has moved into a small apartment closer to me. He's rebuilding slowly, paying off the debt from the divorce settlement, seeing a therapist twice a week, working extra hours to recover what Amber took. The financial damage will take years to repair, but he's managing. Sunday dinners have resumed. Kyle comes over every week now, sometimes staying late into the evening, talking through what happened, processing the manipulation he endured. We're finding our rhythm again, but it's different. There's a carefulness to how he approaches relationships now, a hesitation that wasn't there before. He dates occasionally, but nothing serious. Says he can't trust his own judgment anymore, sees potential red flags everywhere. His therapist says this hypervigilance is normal after systematic manipulation, that it will ease with time. I hope that's true. The grandmother's china sits in my cabinet now. Kyle returned it after the confrontation with Amber, said he couldn't look at it without thinking of her. I told him someday he'll give it to someone who deserves it. He just nodded, not believing me yet. We debated what to do with the wedding recording. Felt a moral obligation to warn others about Amber. But Sarah, the videographer, was nervous about legal implications, and our lawyer warned against posting it publicly without consent. We filed a report with police, even knowing nothing would likely come from it. Created an anonymous online post warning about Amber's pattern without using names, hoping it might reach someone. Through Tom's monitoring, we learned Amber moved to a new city within 2 months of our confrontation. Already engaged to someone new, man in his 40s, recently widowed, has assets. Kyle wanted to warn him. I talked him down. We could face harassment charges. All we can do is watch, helpless, knowing the pattern continues. Kyle struggles most with the time he lost. 2 years of his life given to someone who viewed him as a mark. He's 32 now, watching friends get married and have children while he's starting over emotionally and financially. The therapist says he's grieving not just the relationship but the future he thought he'd have. But our relationship has strengthened through this. Kyle apologizes regularly for the 8 months he wouldn't speak to me, for believing Amber's lies. I tell him it's not his fault. Amber is a professional who spent years perfecting her con. But I can see the guilt he carries. Sometimes I think about Sarah, the videographer. How one wireless mic in the wrong place, or the right place, changed everything. Without that recording, Kyle might still believe I sabotaged his marriage. We might never have reconciled. Truth was always there, hidden in footage no one thought to review. The cost was steep. Kyle lost $150,000, years of savings, his grandmother's heirlooms, his ability to trust easily. I lost 8 months with my son and carry guilt for not protecting him better, but we survived. We're together. And some evenings, when Kyle is laughing at my dinner table, I catch glimpses of who he was before Amber. Who he might be again someday. That has to be enough.